Morning. Arlene Lewis, morning to you. Yes, Arlene, rain today. It's bipolar weather. I just hope this rain knows it's not welcome. It knows it's not welcome on Monday. Morning, Rookman. Leonard Harris, morning to you. Pauline Buckmeyer, morning, Pauline, joining us all the way from Florida. Leonard Beans, Leon Joseph, morning, sir. Leon, it's not raining in Toko today. John Keto, morning to you, sir. Where is Roxanne this morning? I'm not seeing my brooms. Wazid, morning to you. Cyril Mayas, morning, sir. Rutrude, Sedena Kwashi, morning. Listra, Sydney, morning, Listra. Marge, France, morning, Marge. We have on Facebook, Gemma White Isaac, morning, Gemma. Adriana Alexis, morning to you. Joy Ragunanan, morning, Joy. Christopher Coffee, morning to you as well. Roxanne, you're late. Morning. Patricia Comino, morning to you. Wayne Pedro, morning. We'll excuse you this morning, Roxanne, because this is sleep late weather. Emerson Brown, Shah, Dish Rupin, morning to all of you. Annie Frederick, Jonathan Ansel St. Hilaire, morning, guys. Thank you for my brooms, Roxanne. Donna Walcott, morning. Anselm Drakes, morning to you. Sarah Richards, Denise Coggins, morning. John Edwards, Jennifer Dorset, Anadai Dulba, morning, Anadai. John Edwards, Jenny Joseph, Alessia Almondi Roche, morning to you. Morning, Diane. Betty Lynch. Tiana, have your stuff for you. It's just, I haven't gotten a chance to meet up with Google yet. I saw him the other night in La Joqueta. And yeah, he had asked me to come in yesterday to be on the program, but yesterday was stress because you have people all over the constituency calling saying they haven't seen the candidate as yet. But Malabar Mausika is a very large constituency. And we've been, given the short time that we had, we are trying to touch as many places as we can. Some people saying they didn't see the candidate, so they show if they vote in and they don't know who they're voting for. If you don't know who you're voting for, if you claim to be PNM, and saying that because you've not met me or you haven't seen me as yet in the flesh, that you don't know who you're voting for and you don't know if you're voting, and you're not a supporter of the PNM. You're not a supporter of the PNM. Because I didn't see my candidate in 2020. I didn't see Lisa Morris Julian prior to the election, but that didn't stop me from casting my ballot for her. At the end of the day, it's about the People's National Movement. The standard bearer, yes, but at the end of the day, people, when they go, they don't tell. When I meet people, they say, I read and ready, I voted in PNM all my life. I don't hear them saying they voted for the candidates all their life. So this thing about some people complaining and they didn't see the candidate and they show how they're voting, and miss me with that. Betty Lynch, morning. Deborah Duranti, morning to you. Pascal Williams, John Harry, morning. Morning, Florence Bazzi, Francia Panchu, Arthur James, morning. Listra Hewitt Rock, morning to you, Listra. My good friend Tahaka Obika, morning, sir. Glennis Sween, morning. Josette Ali, Erica Lumsden, Pascal Williams, Caroline Sandy, Cheryl Seeley, morning. Leonard McLean, morning to you. Celestina Lane, Judy Bowen, morning, Judy. Sia De Freitas, morning to you. Caroline Sandy, Jenny Bengoshe, Reginald Amor, morning to you. Overly touchy, Roxanne. I've made the point before. UNC supporters are very, very motivated to come out. even if, and remember, they're not really voting on issues, because when you look on Facebook at some of their comments, I mean, it tells you, it tells a whole story. Issues is not what they're voting on. They just want Kamala Prasad Bisasa there at any cost. Half of them, I'm sure, if you were to go to any of the UNC supporters, majority of them, and ask them to tell you one policy in the UNC's manifesto. They haven't put out a manifesto, they put out a manifesto. They can't tell you. The waterfront elk. Ask them. Just one. Tell me one. One that resonates with you. They can't tell you. Right? And this is the nonsense that we have to contend with. And as I've said before, this is supposed to be an easy election for the PNM to win. Why? If the population votes based on facts rather than on fiction, PNM wins. If they vote based on performance rather than propaganda, the PNM wins. And the UNC has had to rely mainly on propaganda for their campaign so far. They're deliberately telling lies, knowing full well that their supporters don't care because they don't know. So they don't know that they are being lied to. And some of them who know that they're being lied to don't care that they're being lied to because they're accustomed to that. They're accustomed to hearing their leader lying. They're accustomed to hearing the leadership of their party lying. And as Mr. Manning used to say, show me a liar and I'll show you a thief. If they would lie for the small things, then they would also lie for the big things. Rodney Charles told us nobody of integrity wants to associate themselves with the UNC, and that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. Even a couple of the new candidates that they brought on who, in the hope of sanitizing the party's image, now you're seeing things coming out showing what their background is. I mean, seriously, really? They've resorted to stunts now where they're destroying their own billboards and claiming that the PNM is doing that. I know it's disgusting and it's despicable, and all the more reason to vote for the PNM. But I put up one of my my billboards, the big banners in Malabar, close to the Larry Gomes Stadium there, and it was torn down. That wasn't disgusting. That wasn't despicable. We were seeing videos quite recently with Lisa Atwater's banners and so on and posters in Maruga Tibaland. Several destroyed. That wasn't disgusting. That wasn't despicable. No. When it's done to the PNM, it's okay. But when it happens to them, oh, it's disgusting and despicable. These are the lowball tactics that they're using to try and say, oh, the PNM destroying their banners. And again, the question must be asked as well, because I saw there's a video circulating where they're claiming that the banners of their candidate for Arangwed St. Joseph, Devish Maraj, a few of his big banners, these big billboards that he has all over the place, a few of them were destroyed. And they claim they have video footage showing 5 men doing the dirty deed. But I don't know if it is that the men held up the PNM party card for the camera to see. I don't know if the men were chanting, great is the PNM, or red is the word. But they are claiming, yeah, that is PNM do that and it's PNM destroying the in the first place, the question must be asked, where is all this money coming from? And the question has been asked, where is all this money coming from to pay for all of these huge billboards and the like and so on? And there is no question that the UNC has outspent the PNM in this election, right? When you see the radio and the quantum of radio and TV ads, all of the billboards that they have up. Someone was telling me they have this massive warehouse in El Socorro where they're storing their jerseys, right? And he said when he looked in, he just happened to be passing, and they were at the time the door was open and he was able to see inside, and a pile of jerseys, which is basically what they're giving out to young people. Just jerseys. That's about it. A couple of them might get a few dollars, little dust, as the young people say, but that's about it. Nothing of substance. Their main goal is to get into office, and we will see what could happen after that. So all of these platitudes and all these promises that they're making, it's not serious. It's to fool a few people. And they may be able to fool a few people. Whether or not it would be enough, that's the next question. But You have some soft-head, well, I wouldn't call them really PNM supporters, but anyway, you have some of them who, um, for these the most foolish of things, talking about let me vote them out. So yesterday, my team and I we walked in Andrew Lane, because we had started before last week. We were only able to complete, I think it was 4 of the 7 streets. So we decided to complete the last 3. And so there's one road in particular, one street in particular, that appears to never have been paved. So every time we tuned into that street and I saw the condition, I said, wow, it's really in a bad condition. But the challenge with that area is that it's a private development, right? That the lands were not vested with the borough corporation. And so my understanding, what I've been told, is that the corporations will not spend public monies on what are considered to be private developments. So hence the reason that road wasn't paved. So I expected that when we go in there, either people wouldn't come out, or if they do come out, they're coming out to cuss and to tell you about the state of the road and how long and whatnot. And so we got a bit of both. Some people didn't come out, and the few that did, they didn't cuss, but they just basically pleaded, can we have this road paved? You know, we pay our property tax, and we have water, and we have lights, and so on. So if the other authorities recognize us, then we think that they should have the road paved. And I see nothing wrong with that, and I gave them the commitment that I would make representation to get the road paved. But one of the residents on the street, when we passed, he wasn't home. So when he did come home, we were still in the area, we were on the last street, and he was told that I had passed. And he was hearing the loudspeaker, so he decided to come and find me to tell me about the road. And I said, yes, I'm aware. I spoke to your neighbors. And he said, but you know, we have a chat for the street and thing, and it had people and some fellas inside there saying, no, we vote them out because they pave the road. And he said, well, as I had to, you know, kind of pacify them and let them know, hey, let me give the people a chance, and you fella. And okay. I'm thinking, really, would vote out because of you didn't get your road paved, and your road not being paved, in your mind, is a bigger issue than the overall well-being of the country. So you want to vote in the UNC, so what, they will pave your road, and then what? You get your road paved and you're happy, great, so you don't have to be going down into craters and like that, at least on your street. And then what happens after that? You don't care if they're stealing from the treasury. You don't care if they're giving out contracts to their friends, family, and financiers. You don't care if they're mismanaging governance in this country. Once you happy your road paved. Yeah, your main street, your street is paved, so I good. And then what? And then when the nonsense starts, we're going and say, well, all of them politicians is the same as, all them parties is the same as them. You know, when I hear people talking that rubbish, that dotishness about all these parties are the same, seriously, you really will compare the PNM to the UNC and say all these parties are the same? The only criticism, legitimate criticism, and I wouldn't really consider it a criticism, but people make up the PNM and they say that the PNM focuses too much on macro and the overall development of the country. And some people find that they don't focus enough on the micro. But the PNM is not about handouts. And that is what micro governance is. That is what the UNC does very well. Putting things directly in the hands of people at the expense of overall governance. And they were fortunate between 2010 to 2015. All the things that they boast about the foreign reserves and all of these different things, and how it was so high and the like. They were fortunate to benefit from the highest energy revenues in the country's history. And I can tell you, if this administration had 3 years or 4 years of the kind of revenues that the UNC had, we would certainly have had more years of budget surpluses. In 2022, let us not forget, the one and only budget surplus this country had since in the last 15 years was under this administration, right? That as a result of the war, the Russia-Ukraine war, when energy prices went up and the government earned more revenue than they had planned. They didn't do what the UNC would have done. Say, hey, we get extra money, but let me go on a spending spree. We have money to give away. So we're going to come in the media review And we will tell this ministry and that ministry to ask for extra hundreds of millions of dollars, and we will give it away in contracts to our friends, families, and financiers. What did the PNM do? Didn't do that. They put money into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and we had a little extra something, and we were able to record a surplus in the 1 year when we had significant energy revenues. That was the UNC's lot for the majority of their term, the People's Partnership. And yet still they never recorded as surplus. Because when extra monies come in, they find ways and means to spend it. Unfortunately, they didn't put it into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. But yet still you have people, some of whom are supposed to be men and women of letters, supporting them. Madness. That makes no sense to me. But then a lot of things in this country defy logic sometimes. Yeah? Sometimes the maths don't match, the English don't English, the logic just don't logic. Case in point. So I see Iowa George has finally decided to put on his political jersey. Right? So he endorsed Mrs. Prasad Bisesa. So it says here, this article, Iowa endorses UNC in birthday surprise for Kamala. No surprise there. For the longest while, Iowa has been a proponent of the UNC. As a matter of fact, you all know that is why I am no longer on 91.9. But based on how things unfolded over the last few months, I too would not have been there, because with the departure of Sharon and Google, Bruce, and I was thinking about it a couple of days ago to realize that between 2014, when we started on 91.9 on the Sunshine Hour, to now, every single staff member has gone. Everyone. He has had an over 100% turnover of staff between 2013 to now. People like Rico and when we got there was a guy, what's his name? But he used to go by the name Sima. He used to co-host with Aisha Wells at the time. All of them gone. Nigel Snipes, all these people, everybody gone. And so now he has turned seemingly full UNC. I see Fuad Abubakar has decided to endorse the UNC as well, put out a post on Facebook talking about what a nice lady Kamala is, and he had said things about her, but he met her and she's such a nice lady. Wasn't it Mr. Warner who said some years ago, Prasad Bisesa is charming but very deceptive. Charming but very deceptive. And I will add dishonest as well. Dishonest as well. Remember a couple of years ago when she lied and claimed that the PNM increased the price of flour by 33%. 33%, man. They don't care about the poor. And 1 week later, exactly 1 week later, it was announced that the price of flour had fallen between 13 to 15%. Did she ever apologize for her lie? Her blatant lie? No, she didn't. But her supporters applauded that. Every night, half of me belongs to you, and the other half I give to you. And there were leaders before me, and there will be leaders after me, but there will never be a leader who loves you as much as I love you. And how did she demonstrate that love in 2015 on election night? When she lost, couldn't take the loss. While her supporters were waiting for consolation at Rienzi Complex, as is the tradition, whatever the outcome, win, lose or draw, you address your supporters. She didn't do that. She jumped in the car. Her sister pulled up because I think they had some issues with PM1, because she was still prime minister. She would have been prime minister for another day and a half. But it is reported that she would have said to the special branch, or like police thinking, can her sister pulled up in a red Toyota Corolla, and she jumped in and went to, and probably drowned her sorrows in her beverage of choice. But she couldn't care less about her supporters who had gathered at Rienzi Complex and who were looking for solace and consolation. But today she's telling them there will never be another leader who loves you as much as I love you. Like I tell you, Basdeo Pandey never did that to his supporters. Whatever the outcome, he would still address, and he pelt some and pelt blows. And he told Dukaran, Winston Dukaran, hang your head in shame. Look in the mirror. And all of that. Well, he still addressed them. But Prasad Bisesa, no, but she loved them all. Kamala doesn't love you. It's a convenient line to use, but she doesn't love you. All right? She loves her financiers. When we look at the amount of money that is being spent, that they are spending on this campaign, millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, music truck, to rent a music truck, I could tell you, for an election campaign is very expensive. You know, all over the place you have music trucks. But they have some of their candidates. For instance, the candidate for Malabar Musica. He has had a music truck every single day, up and down the place, up and down the constituency, playing a recording that he got from Anil Roberts. Right? And again, much traction because Malabar Musica is red and ready. But he has to do what it is that he has to do. Because when they pass in certain places and then we pass after, and people say, the UNC man pass, but when I see man, yesterday a woman said, when I see them passing, I close my shop. I ain't want them to come in and buy water or nothing from me. I don't want to hit them. So I close my shop, and when they pass, yeah. And we keep getting things like that. The man pass, nobody can come out on the street. And when I met up with him last week, you could see it on his face, his countenance. It's like, in his mind, his facial expression suggested there's always a time. You come on this whole street and only one person came out to meet you. Says a lot. And what I keep getting from PNM people, even those who may be disgruntled for whatever reason, they say those people must not be allowed to get back into office. We know what they give. And I think once that holds, and I was talking to my good friend Tahaka, and he was telling me the other night as well, similar sentiments are being expressed when he was campaigning with Randall Mitchell in La Brea. And so the PNM has the votes needed to carry this election. It's all about the election day machinery and ensuring that the people come out and vote. And that it's not about trying to convince UNC people. You can't convince them. They are beyond logic, beyond reason. You could tell them what? All the time they're talking about this government, and every night on their platforms, they're talking about this government wants to increase rates and do this and increase taxes and so on. But I'll play for you all just now a clip from one of their supporters and how, just to show you, logic, yeah, don't try to understand UNC logic, aka donkey logic. You try to do that, you go mad, right? But that is the sentiment all over, that PNM supporters are ready to go and do what it is that they need to do. Yes, you will have some of them who telling them, yeah, I wasn't planning to vote. I didn't think I voted this year. As if that making any sense. You get 2 hours off to go and vote. But the retirees who sit down home, some of them in their wheelchair, some of them with their stick, they say I get in early, and all of them telling you that 6 o'clock, I want to be in the line. I must be in the first 5. I want to go and vote and come back home early and relax myself. The elderly telling you that. The retirees telling you that. The people who have challenges, who have health challenges, right, who have mobility challenges, they are ready to go and cast their ballot. And some of them who are young and strong, talking stupidness. Me, if I go in and vote now, I ain't decided yet. I ain't sure. Okay, what can we do to help you to make up your mind? Nothing. So you don't even have an issue, you're just not feeling to vote. Well, all right. But as I say, Vox Populi, Vox Dei. So they say. But anyway, let me get to this, because in the interest of time, and I had a bus out early, we say good morning to Mr. Chance, morning to Marilyn Gordon. So let me share with you the type of responsibility that the other side is offering you as good governance. No deal to reopen refinery will be honored under the UNC, Roger. So he's not running for a seat. He's not a part of the UNC leadership, but he is pronouncing on government policy should they win. No deal to reopen the refinery will be honored under UNC. And this is Roger saying this. Right? Kamala Prasad Bisesa has said that too. But Mr. Roger feels that he is sufficiently empowered to say that. And from where I sit, The only way you could really feel empowered to say that is if you would have had discussions with the leadership of the UNC, and that would have been one of the items that would have been discussed to secure your support. Because Patriotic Energies, as we know, would have spent quite a bit of money to try and get the refinery. Quite a bit of money, to the point where they almost bankrupt, if not bankrupted the OWTU, because we would have seen where they would have had to lease out some of their property and the like for a grocery and all of these different things, right? A lot of money was spent. They printed jerseys, labor, all kind of that they did, and were unsuccessful in getting the refinery, notwithstanding the fact that the People's National Movement in 2019 would have bent over backwards, perform all kind of acrobatics to allow or enable the Patriotic Energies to own and operate the refinery. And they still weren't able to, even when they came with a $700 million offer. Government said, here, what, we not, it's a good offer, but let's do you one better. We will give you a 3-year moratorium, all right? A 3-year moratorium to be able to run the refinery, make your money, rather than you going and take a big loan to pay us, and then you get the refinery, and then when you start, you are having to satisfy or to pay this loan. It affects your cash flow, and then you can't pay staff. You don't have money to buy the oil and all of that. And remember, whoever gets the refinery would be tasked with the responsibility of fuel security for the country, because if the refinery is up and running and producing fuel, there is no need for us to import if we're going to buy it from the operators of the refinery, right? So you need to make sure. The government said we don't want to put oil in a situation where you are saddled with debt at the start of your operations, and then it impacts your ability to run the refinery, and then you shut down thereafter, and it affects fuel security. So we are willing to work with you. You get a 3-year moratorium to pay. So for the first 3 years, you have to pay, sort out yourself, sort out your teething problems and so on, get your cash flow up, put aside some savings and whatnot. And then after that, we will give you some 10 years to pay us back. And you could pay us back from the revenues that you would generate from operations. That's a very good deal. Very, very good deal. But their financiers, who they claim they had, said they wanted to hold the refinery as collateral. And the government was not prepared to do that. It was like you saying, I come and I tell you, I have my house for sale. You want to buy it. And then you want me to put up my house as collateral so that you could get the down payment to pay the bank. How does that work? Really? It don't work so. As Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited confirmed, it was continuing negotiations with Nigerian energy company Owando to restart the Pointe-à-Pitre refinery. Oilfield Workers Trade Union President Ansel Roger made it clear that any deal signed close to the general election will not be honored by a future UNC government. Speaking to Guardian Media during a walkabout in Point Fortin Tuesday, Roger said the refinery closure caused immense suffering to families. He said the revitalization of the oil and gas industry and employment would come only with a UNC-led administration. Since George Young shut down Petrotrin, thousands of families have suffered. That will change on April 28th. Roger said the union already knows the lucrative wells in Point Fortin and will bring back production levels at Trinma to 28,000 barrels of oil per day, because you have a magic wand. All right? With regard to the refinery, Roger added the UNC government will prioritize inspection of the neglected facilities, identify the plants that can restart within 10 months, and begin the reactivation process. The OWTU is ready, willing, and able. We know where the lucrative wells are. The people of Point Fortin must benefit from sustainable jobs gain. Again, Roger noted that reactivating the industry would bring immediate employment for Point Fortin residents. You know what would have brought employment for Point Fortin residents to Roger? The smelter plant that Kamla Prasad Bisesa cancelled, 2010 to 2015. 9,800 jobs were lost, Mr. Roger. And you had nothing to say about it. All right? Nothing to say about it. Perhaps because you may not have been the representative union, and therefore you couldn't care less. Meanwhile, UNC candidate for Point Fortin, Ernesto Kisa, who was founder of the Movement for Social Justice, who was a founder, said he joined the UNC after the MSJ chose not to contest the general election. He said the labor movement called on him And he answered that call. There was nothing preventing Mr. Kesa, as a founding member of the MSJ, if he wanted to contest the election under the MSJ banner. All he simply had to do was to indicate such to the leadership, which I suppose he's a part of, having been a founder, and go and campaign. One time when nomination day come, get your $5,000 if you think you could win and go and pay. And you don't need the endorsement or you don't need permission from the leadership or the party. You could have contested in that capacity, representative for the MSJ. No big deal. It's not like, So when them coming with this cock and bull nonsense here about, because the MSJ chose not to contest the general election. The MSJ, we know, couldn't contest 41 seats. And this is unfortunate because you have, Labour has such a large membership. And you can't even convince your own membership to vote for you. Seriously, Kesa? How many persons, how many MSJ, well, not MSJ, but how many OWTU members live in Point Fortin? Quite a bit, I would imagine. And you can't convince sufficient persons to support you or to vote for you. Okay. This is not about me fighting the incumbent. This is about fighting a system. The Eric Williams PNM no longer exists. Well, duh. What we have is a group running the party for themselves and the rich, and they keep talking this BS. Why must the rest of us suffer? You suffering, Kesa? Okay. But I draw to your attention. For the last how many years, we've been trying to get somebody, an entity, to sit down and, put in a proper bid for the refinery, whether it be lease or purchase. So we have a lease arrangement on the table, and discussions are taking place, right? All this talk about, Roger talking about, we can, they know where the wells are, the lucrative wells are. Really, Mr. Roger? So why didn't say that between when you got the opportunity in 2019? Why didn't say that? You see, they're selling you this dream that they will open the refinery. Where the money is going to come from? We have already established it's going to take quite a bit of money to restart the refinery, quite a bit. And even if you get the refinery up and running, there is the issue of oil. The refinery has a throughput capacity of over 100,000 barrels of oil per day. Yeah, what are you talking about? 28,000 barrels from Trinidad. Energy oil production under the People's Partnership was what? About 70-something, 80-something thousand barrels of oil per day. Much of which would have been coming from the private operators like the BP and the EOG and the UNAT and whatnot and stuff. But even so, we saw Petrotrin cut back on throughput in an attempt, according to Khaled Hassan Ali, to save the refinery, to prevent the refinery from going out of business. So he's saying, if what we are, simple to understand, what Mr. Hassan Ali was saying, if you cut back throughput to avoid going out of business because the money that you were spending to import all of that oil was impacting on your bottom line. You were not generating sufficient revenue and you were going into debt to have to purchase all this oil. So we had to cut back on the amount of oil that we were importing to try and cut costs, to avoid going out of business. His words, avoid going out of business. And every time I speak about that, I make the point. If you're not facing going out of business, why are you taking strategies, employing strategies to avoid going out of business? Who does that? You feel Republic Bank will say, well, we do and take employ strategies to avoid going out of business? Yeah, but why are you doing that? If you're a profitable entity, Republic Bank earned over $2 billion, some $2 billion in profit last fiscal. So if you're earning billions in profits, why are you employing strategies to avoid going out of business? So if you're facing the specter of going out of business, that you do that you employ such strategies. This is in 2015. Khaled Hassan Ali was saying that. But they would have you believe that when oil production was higher and oil prices were higher, so everything was in place for them to make money. They were not making money because Kevin Ramnarine, in that speech that he gave in the Senate in December of 2014, spoke about losses in 2013, 2014, and another projected loss for 2015. So oil production was higher then than it is today, than it was in 2018. Oil prices was higher then than it was in 2018. when the refinery was shut down. But they were suffering losses when oil prices were higher, production was higher. 2018, oil prices lower, production lower. But they want to tell you the refinery was making money when production was lower, prices was lower. But when the production was higher and prices was higher, it was losing money. I do understand that logic. Anybody can help me with that logic? Because when price is higher and production higher, you're supposed to be making more money, making profits. Not when the equation is one where less production, lower prices, you're making money. I confuse, but anyway, that's UNC logic for you. But I just want to show you, right? All the hullabaloo they've been making about this refinery, and we finally in a place. We would have had a number of, over the last 7 years or so, we would have been hearing a number of attempts by this administration to find a private entity to run the refinery, to take government out of it. Because when you have government in it, that is where the problem starts, because the unions figured that they could hold the government in a chokehold when it comes to wage negotiations, that they could do that, and they could hold the company to ransom. But let us not forget the reason why Kevin Ramnarine had to make that statement in the Senate was because the OWTU was threatening to shut down the refinery and to shut down Petrotrin because they were asking for a pay raise, and the government at the time said, we cannot give you a pay raise. 0, 0, 0. We can't even offer you 1%. Nothing. Salt. And Kevin Ramnarine was saying to these workers, listen, time to build up, not to tear down Petrotrin. We are asking for your forbearance. We can't give all you no pay raise right now. But if the company was profitable, why can't I get a pay raise? They wasn't even offering 4%. Not even 4% they were offering the workers. But today they're costing 4% and 5%. But Kevin and them were offering you all 0. Nothing. Highest energy revenues in the country's history. And OWT was ready to shut down the refinery in protest. Right? Don't forget it. Guyana, which have all this oil, soon they will be producing close to 1 million barrels of oil per day. Right? They have oil coming out of their K-packs. But Guyana government say, we are building no refinery, no state-owned refinery. What we will do is invite entities, private sector entities, to come and build a refinery. And what we will do, we will provide them with the land, and we will give them preference with respect to access to oil. But the government of Guyana, with all this oil and all this money that they supposedly getting, say, we don't want no part of no refinery. We see what happened in Trinidad, right? When it is that you have a state-owned refinery and what happens, and especially when you're in a unionized environment, we don't want that. So we only refinery building here had to be in private hands. The government wants, they're not investing no money, and they don't want no ownership. They want no involvement in that whatsoever. And they want a refinery that will produce, that could process about 36,000 barrels of oil per day, just mainly for domestic production. Now, like, they changed their mind. They decide, no, we're going to send the oil up to have so many US refineries now that operating below capacity. We'll send the oil up there. Since we already have the facilities, and let them refine it, and then we will just import the fuel. That's what they're saying. So the Guyanese government, who have all this oil, who want no refinery, want no part of that. But in Trinidad here, you have Prasad Bisesa promising you and telling you, yeah, we will open the refinery. Where the money coming from? The amount of money that would be required to satisfy all of these promises that they're making. But of course, the blind and the deaf, all they're hearing is 10%. Felicia said, we started negotiations at 10%. Roger didn't say that, eh? Yeah, what Roger said? I played it for you all. They have not, even though they have not decided on a percentage increase. Roger said they haven't decided on a percentage increase. Felicia said you're starting at 10%. Munilal said you're starting at 10%. When you look at the manifesto that speaks to wage negotiations and labor relations, there is no mention of any 10%. They've been talking about that before. They printed their manifesto. And as I said, when you go and you look at it, on the section that deals with labor relations and wage negotiations, there is no mention of any 10%. So all who want to take chin up and say, yeah, we go get 10% and more, that ain't there. They didn't even state that they're going to start at 10. So like they learned from 2010, they're not going to put anything inside that manifesto that they could be nailed to the cross with after. Right? So Bisasan, whoever else could say, well, we didn't think. Roger says, not Roger, Felicia says so. Munilal said that too. He is on record as having said that. But it is not in their manifesto. And if they produce a manifesto today or tomorrow, it will not be there. So don't come and say like the $3,000 pension at age 60 and then come and say it was a misprint. There will be no misprint here. It is not printed. Okay? So now that put God out to your thoughts and put them in office on Monday. And then they come and say afterwards, well, now that we have a delay of the land and, the country's economic circumstances such that we cannot afford to offer 10% at this time. But what we will do is so and so we will offer 5% or 6%, or they might take 6%. And then so we will try and look for other ways in which we can enhance the compensation packet of public sector workers. So we will see if it is, we can offer them things like, preference to HDC housing, and to kind of mama guy and fool them now, and then come and drop it on you that they increase the income ceiling or the qualifying income for HDC houses, and add an additional 60,000 persons. So your application end up at the bottom of the barrel because focus is being placed now on building housing that satisfies a $45,000 household income and not so much 25. All right? So don't complain if that happens. Don't complain at all. And when you see the coming of no money and all you're hearing for the next 5 years, the PNM this and the PNM that and the PNM and the PNM. We're complaining, for the last 10 years, only Kamla. Yeah, well, for the last 10 years, we only hearing Kamla from the UNC too. Cult of personality. Everything is around this woman. Just remember 2 days ago, she turned 73. And I am not aware that she's aging in reverse. So her health situation is only going to worsen in the next 5 years, because as you know, she's a diabetic and she's hypertensive. She has trouble walking. All right. So those of you who figure she's going to get younger and stronger in the next 5 years, well, okay. I have the deed to the to Buckingham Palace. So if anybody is interested in purchasing it, give me a call. Yeah. Any of you who believe that she's going to get younger and stronger in the next 5 years, she's going to be a figurehead at best. All she wants is the title and the perks that comes with it, but she's not prepared to do the work. And they keep telling us the PNM is at its weakest. This is the weakest the PNM has ever been. And the PNM has been so horrible over the last 10 years and the economy in a mess and everything. Well, if the PNM is so weak and has been so horrible and wicked and evil, how come the UNC can't beat the PNM at its weakest? On their own. Manos, according to Kamla. How come Kamla can't beat Stuart on her own? Why does she need to form a coalition of misfits to come up against the PNM? So if the PNM at its weakest, and you, the UNC, cannot beat the PNM at its weakest on their own, what does that tell you about the strength of the UNC? A 36-year-old party have never had the capacity to beat the PNM on their own. What does that tell you about them? If they're not strong enough to beat the PNM on their own when they claim the PNM is at its weakest, then you are not strong enough to manage this country. You're weak. You don't have the cojones and the testosterone and the testicles to run this country as is required. The fact of the matter is, we need gas. In 2014, when the oil prices started to fall, remember what the $11.625 million Minister of Finance came and told us? All you have nothing to worry about, man. Trinidad and Tobago is a gas-based economy. We get the majority of our revenues from our gas resources. That's what they came and said. So don't worry if oil prices fall. We good to go. All right? So the focus is on gas. And our gas is depleting. We need gas. So while they're talking about drilling for oil and drilling for oil, the focus should be on gas. We need Dragon. We need gas that we could get like yesterday. Not to invite people to come and drill and look for gas that might not come, start flowing until 2035. We don't need that. They're focusing on that and the investment that would go into the search for gas to come and talk about foreign direct investment, because the energy companies will have to invest money, obviously, if they come in to look for gas. But we don't want gas to flow from 2035. We don't have the facility. We do not have the luxury of waiting 10 years. As I mentioned to you all before, we have gas fields that are now coming on stream that were discovered since 1983. Over 40 years ago, right? That this gas was discovered. And only now, these companies taking a final investment decision. So there is no guarantee, even if they were to come and look for gas now and find new gas, that they're going to take a final investment decision to monetize that. We know the energy companies are prepared. They put the infrastructure in place, and we need to focus on Dragon, Coquina, Mannequin, and the other fields within close proximity that we could bring on stream in the next 2 years, 3 years. That is what we need. And the only person who could do that is Stuart Young. Kamla Persad cannot do that. And I keep stressing that the UNC cannot do that. So what are we doing? What are we doing? But they're promising all kind of thing. All them young fellas and them that they given jersey and possibly a little dust. Right? Promising them all kind of thing to work with them. But then when I walk in the same areas and you bounce up these same young men in their jersey, and they coming out, when they see the red coming, they're coming out in the UNC jersey. Because that's what they pay them to do. And then afterwards now they want to pull me square on the side and say, boss, what we want is actually a little work, we're just looking for a little job. So yeah, so if you could help me out. But they were in the UNC jersey. But they come in and tell me you just want a little job. And again, when you ask them what kind of work they're looking for, everybody wants to work in the corporation. Everybody wants to work in the corporation. As I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, the deputy mayor for the Arima borough, I'm asking, what is this attraction to the this borough work? Because he and I went walking to meet a few people in a particular area yesterday morning, and we encountered a couple of residents, one whom he took me to, and they were asking a similar question. He was saying, because there's a project taking place in that area, and what he was saying is that the reason, well, first of all, the borough workers don't work 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever, right? So really and truly, they normally work for like about 4.5 hours or so. And the reason being because they're out on the road, there are no restroom facilities for them. So because some of the projects that they're working on is short term and so on. So you can't have them working long hours and they don't have access to bathroom facilities, and they're not supposed to utilize people's private facilities. In other words, if they're working in a residential area, they're not really supposed to go and ask the residents to use the restroom facilities. Now, if it's an emergency and a resident is willing to allow you to use their facilities, no problem. So they say because of that, and with the weather and all of these different things, and the hot sun and so on and so on, that's why they work short hours. So the project that they were working on that we came by yesterday, by the time we got there at probably just before 10 o'clock, the workers are already racked up and gone. Yeah, so they did about 2 hours, and the resident was complaining, look how long they're taking to finish that little job. They come in here for 2 hours, and then you're seeing 2 men, and then some more will come, and at the end of the day, by the time the project finished, it's just another 2 of them. But oh, look, this simple thing, and look how many weeks now they're taking to finish that. And that's what they want. But blame the MP. Anyway, another jokey headline that I saw. Jolene, internal polls show UNC landslide win. UNC Deputy Political Leader Jolene John claims that internal polls have shown the PNM is struggling and not in the lead, and a shocking landslide win is coming for the UNC's coalition of interests. The PNM polls are telling them just what the UNC polls are revealing to us, that the PNM is struggling to hold on to their marginals in Toco's Sangre Grande, San Fernando West, St. Joseph, Tunapuna, and the Tobago seats, said John on Sunday in response to questions from the Express. John, who is UNC's candidate for Couva North, criticized Young, saying he's detached from reality. She said reality will come crashing down all around him. All the arrogance, the misdeeds, the oppression, the nastiness, the vulgarity will come back to them and be turned on them in a shocking landslide. Okay. Kamla will deliver his karma, and he will be the shortest serving PM in our history. So he made his bed, so he will lie in it. Nobody believes Stuart's lies anymore, especially the youths, hence the reason for them too. Yellow is the code. Right. She goes on to say, let me see, Stuart Chung is a man completely out of touch with realities, struggles, and challenges of the ordinary man and woman in this country. He has an absurd sense of entitlement and privilege and has never had to work hard for an opportunity in his life. Today, he finds himself completely out of his league because this fight for safety, security, equity, blah, blah, blah. No amount of lies, propaganda, and fake promises, tantrums about things they could have easily done in the past 10 years, or even bribery can help the PNM now. Stuart is living in La La Land and a fantasy world, and he hopes he can convince others to live in that fake world with him for his last week of his field government, she said. I wonder if this internal poll that they have, is it the same internal poll, Jillian, that told you all you were going to beat the PNM in 2020? How did that work out? Is it the same internal poll, Jillian, that informed Rudal Munilal's statement in 2023 during the local government election campaign that the UNC was going to beat the PNM to a frazzle and then beat the frazzle too? I am yet to see what a frazzle looks like, Jillian. Help us now. The closest thing I saw to a frazzle was on the night of the by-election in Lengua Indian Walk, where this by-election came about because the two parties would have tied in terms of results on the 14th of August, 2023, and then which would have resulted in the by-election where the UNC would have lost 23 votes from the amount that they would have received on August 14th, and the PNM received an additional 600 plus votes. Did your internal poll tell you that that was going to happen, Julian? Your same internal pollsters? Did you all foresee that you were going to get a cocktail by over 600 votes in the by-election? And then in Quina Mondiablo in Kamala Prasad Bissasa's constituency, did your internal poll show you that the PNM was also going to pick up an additional 600 votes in a by-election? That in the election itself, they got just over 300 votes and were able to get over 900 votes in Kamala Prasad Bissasa's constituency. Did your poll show you that? Is that the same pollster that you're all using? Because the more you all talk this nonsense, I can tell you, it is going to energize PNM supporters. All right? Even those, some of them who were planning to sit it out and whatnot. And if some PNM people are concerned, that is good. When PNM people are concerned, they come out and vote. When they're overconfident, they say, nah, the PNM done win already. I have to go and vote. My one vote ain't gonna count. But your one plus the neighbor's one plus the other three in the house next door, and your cousin and your sister and your nene and everybody saying the same thing, that is what makes the difference, particularly in the marginal seats. So if PNM people worried, that is good. I want you all to be worried. Be worried. Be concerned of a repeat of 2010 to 2015. Be concerned of a repeat, and not just a repeat, but 2010 to 2015 on steroids. Be concerned about that. Because remember, they've been waiting 10 years to thief. 10 years to thief. They're salivating. They're like wolves. They're sniffing, they're smelling the treasury. You have a responsibility to ensure that they don't get inside it. Because all these millions that they're spending on campaign, nobody spends millions that they work hard to earn, right? So there must be some sort of payback. What is the payback? How is it going to be paid back? Through billion-dollar contracts. Because all these billboards, I tell you, billboards ain't cheap. Yeah, billboards, there's big billboards costing $30,000 and $40,000 for one. And look how many this Devish Maharaj guy has up. And not just him alone. And I told you, music trucks, expensive. And most of these candidates yesterday, I saw the same Devish have a big truck in El Socorro there. And these trucks running every day, whole day up and down the constituency. Where is all of this money coming from? Concern yourself. Who has an interest to ensure that the UNC gets into office? We've already had this discussion, right? We have a certain UNC financier who is now on the ropes to pay this country over $1 billion in restitution for his involvement in the corruption. But that is a civil matter, which means that the state has the wherewithal and the ability to drop the case should they get into office. And whether your $1 billion, you notice we've not been hearing too much about that, even except when Faris Al-Rawi talks about it, but we know it's simply for the state to now levy on the assets of Mr. Ferguson and get the money. All right? But them coming into office, and we know he has been identified as a UNC financier. Section 34, it is said, was designed to assist him and the late Ish Galbaran Singh to be able to get off scot-free So if in their first incarnation, 2010 to 2015, they had no problems in putting things in place to assist this individual, rest assured they have no problems in doing the same thing this time around. Assuming, of course, that they would have received a contribution from him. And I am saying, if I were in his position, I wouldn't mind spending a few millions to save having to pay over $1 billion. So your over $1 billion is at stake. So play fast and loose with your vote and let him get away with it when they drop the case. Remember, between 2010 to 2015, they did absolutely nothing in furtherance of that civil matter that was started under the Manning administration. Faris would have told us that when they came in, the attorneys who had been retained by the Manning administration to fight this matter in the Miami court indicated that for 5 years they were trying to get instructions from then Attorney General Anand Logan and his successor to no avail, and that the case was on the brink of being thrown out because nothing was happening. Thank goodness you all had good sense in 2015 to vote them out, and as a result of that, the case continued, and today we stand to gain over $1 billion. But they have no problem in costing you, the citizens, over $1 billion. We saw it with the Point Fortin Highway and the removal of that clause. The removal of that clause mere days before the general election to protect the bankrupt contractor. They didn't care about your well-being, but half of me belongs to you and the other half I give to you, and none will love you as I love you. Really? That's how you show love? By engaging in activities that would rob the citizens of this country significant sums of money? Let us not forget that there is a civil matter with respect to the EMBD, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Privy Council have all said that Rudal Munilal and these contractors have a case to answer with respect to fraud, conspiracy, bid rigging, bribery, and other things that they potentially owe you, the taxpayers, over $200 million in restitution of money that the thief were alleged to have stolen. But on the flip side, remember, the contractors are making a claim for over $400 million that they claim is owed to them by the state for works that was done. And if the state pulls that civil case, if it is that they were to drop that case, it means then you are saying, the state is saying, all of the claims and allegations made against these persons were false. Hence the reason we are dropping the case. And therefore, if you drop your case, then you are basically admitting and saying that the claims of the contractors are legitimate, and you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer, will have to find $400 million to pay these contractors. So you think these contractors have any issue in pelting out a few million, 10 million, 15 million for an election campaign that could earn them over $400 million in claims? You think about it, right? So you make the wrong choice on Monday and give them the power to be able to drop that civil suit, because obviously Rudal Munilal is not going to continue a civil suit for which he is a defendant, and which he, should this case go to full trial and there be an outcome, may very well find himself having to pay quite a piece of money, one, and two, it would also contribute to the criminal case in this matter, because yes, there's supposed to be a parallel police investigation taking place into this matter. So not only is it a civil suit, but we could very well see criminal charges being laid. But you heard with the police, quite recently you would have heard that the investigations were shelved. It was on the newspaper front page. And the police, the head of the police service couldn't tell us what is the status of these investigations, but Gary Griffith came out and told us all of these were active investigations when he left office. So when people vex with the government, oh, I vex with the PNM because all this thing and nobody can get locked up. Whose fault is that? The government would have provided the information to the police. The police need to tell you why these matters were shelved, why these investigations were shelved. That is what they need to come and tell us. We need to know. But we want to blame the government because the police not doing the job. They're not interested. Look at this matter with the, again, patriotic energies. We had the Minister of Energy telling us that Patriotic Energies in this latest round of bids submitted a fraudulent document, a $1.5 billion purported wire transfer receipt, and investigations into the matter in TPHL doing their due diligence found that this document was fraudulent, And this man speaking for this coalition or this collision of misfits, and he has the audacity and the temerity to come and tell you that no deal signed for the refinery will be honored. But he is leading an institution that provided fraudulent documents in their bid to get the refinery. And it tells you if they would go to such lengths to risk their own freedom, to risk being jailed for the sake of getting that refinery. And the opposition leader said nothing about it. Rudal Munila, the only comment that he made with respect to that was how Stuart Young know about that. If this is supposed to be TPHL and you have the and then he was concerned about how did Trinidad Petroleum Holdings find out about that too, when it is that Scotiabank was doing the due diligence and they were conducting the whole process of shortlisting and whatnot. He had no concern that a fraudulent document was submitted, right? That criminal charge. What is happening with that? Did the police investigate that matter? Is it under investigation? That is fraud. You have people who in this country who get in charge because they're looking to get into the police service and they submitted a fraudulent CXC certificate. They changed 3s into 2s as the case may be, and they were discovered. And they get charged within record time, within a matter of days, because you have the document. But here it is that we were told months ago and about this matter, and we heard nothing further from it. Roger couldn't put in a proper defense, save and accept this. Yeah, well, that's spontaneous. Yeah, we're not entertaining that. We're not entertaining that. What is going on with the AudioGate investigation involving Fali Augustine and members of the THA? Look how long now. Only in this country, police investigations take so long, with no follow-up whatsoever. Sometimes the dumbest of things. We would have heard Kate McMahon say with respect to the police investigations into that same EMBD matter, that they had provided information they were on the cusp of arrest being made. All they simply needed was for the police to apply for the warrants. And that wasn't done. The police did not apply for the warrants. But we want to blame the government because nobody can get locked up. Dr. Rowley, Stuart Young cannot go with handcuffs to Rudal Munila's home and say, you're under arrest. They can't go to the homes of any of these contractors and say they're under. That is the work of the police. And there is a process to be followed, and the hierarchy of the police must explain to us why it is they did not go and get these warrants as they were requested and needed. But nobody asking that. Instead, you have people like Israel Khan want to mash up pictures of the Chief Justice, and the Chief Justice must go. But you're not calling for probity into the police service and how they conduct their investigations. We're not interested in that. That's not important. But these people, a man leading an organization that tendered a fraudulent document in an attempt to get a state asset, could very well serve as a minister in the next government, right? He is a mouthpiece for what considers itself to be the alternative to the People's National Movement. You don't see people like that on the PNM platform. But look where they gravitate to. The United National Congress. Are we surprised? Why? Because they're comfortable there. Because if you have the propensity to thief, if you have the propensity to be a crook, the UNC will welcome you with open arms. In the PNM, forget that. Don't even come close. So they have no problems in screening people with criminal backgrounds. Screening people who have been fired from state enterprises for wrongdoing. Screening people who are the subject of police investigations for human trafficking and prostitution. They have no problems in screening people like that. If any party group in the PNM were to recommend somebody like that to come before Balize House, they would disband that party group. Are you crazy? You mad to send this person before Balize House to be screened? Whoever is the chairman of that party group would be hauled before the General Council. Tarred and feathered. What utter rubbish is that? But in the UNC, par for the course. As a matter of fact, you don't even have to screen. Yeah, that person fits the bill. Because to be able to sit in a UNC cabinet, you must have no integrity, no scruples, no morals, no ethics. You must be willing to sacrifice all of that. So when they sit down in cabinet, and we want to rent a building from a man who is a cabinet minister, recusal what? When him so? You shop we don't operate so. How much you renting the building for? All right, no problem. Deal with that. We approve, no problem. No recusal here. Because we're not taking any minutes either, so nobody will know that you were sitting in the cabinet meeting where this decision was taken to rent your building, or this decision was taken to purchase a piece of property from you. That's how they operate. But today they're holding out themselves. Yes, we are the alternative. And again, I remind you all, they're talking about all kind of things and accusing the PNM, but you ain't hear them talking about no corruption. Eh? Corruption is not a topic of discussion on the UNC platform. They want to tell you about incompetence and how they don't care and they're wicked and they only want to dig out the people eye and they want to increase taxes and increase this and increase that. Rubbish. Utter rubbish. But some people fall in for that. I see where, let me see. Let me get this here. Right. There was something I wanted to play. So let me see if I get it here. 1 second. So many things is that I save. All right, I don't see it not yet. That's not, folks. I'm gonna try and get it here. I saw a video with a young man. You can see this anyway. Let me see if I get this here. 1 second. I know we put it on the page. Right. Yeah, 1 minute, folks. So many things we share on this page. Right, I'm gonna play this. Anti-Kamala. Only way PNM don't do nothing for nobody. See what PNM are we doing right now? Asking for food. We go with that. Asking for food. Can you please help me to get some food? $20 at the right better. So that way we voting fully UNC. Anti-Kamala all the way. You hear? We voting UNC. Anti-Kamala represent all the time, man. Love and respect. From 100. Anti-Kamala. All the way. PNM don't do nothing for nobody. See what PNM are we doing right now? Asking for food. We go with that. Asking for food. Can you please help me to get some food? $20 at the right better. So that way we voting fully UNC. Anti-Kamala all the way. You hear? We voting UNC. Anti-Kamala represent all the time, man. Love and respect. From 100. He got jersey. So the PNM have him with a piece of paper in his hand, begging for $20 in a gas station. Yeah? Yeah, the PNM have you there. Talking about full 100. Fully dunce. But that is who they're targeting. Right? That's who they're targeting. And people get upset when they talk about the racist youth. But even their own Victor Roberts, who was dragging coal from all over the country not so long ago for them, they said they're calling them out on that and asking, how come you don't have anybody of East Indian descent in your hands? How come you don't have anybody of East Indian descent doing things like this, stand up by a gas station with a piece of paper, begging for food, asking for $20 to buy food? When you have so many programs for which the government is offering young persons like himself, just come and sign up, right? Come and learn a trade, something that could earn you an income. No, but they give you a jersey and a script and tell you come. Just conveniently, somebody just happened to be passing by and see him and decided to do a video, right? Conveniently to do a video. Talking about anti-cams and anti-cams. That's your aunt? How she become your aunt? You talk to her? She promised you that? No, but you have all of these little mouthpieces out there. Ask him. You could name one policy that the UNC is going to implement should they come into office. He can't tell you. They'll be voting UNC. You're voting UNC. You have an ID card. You don't even look like you have an ID card, but you're voting UNC. She give you a jersey, yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's probably all you're going to get. And maybe they probably hand you $20 to do that video. How that helping you? Come like promise you nothing. They come and fool up your head. And they'll chain up plenty others like him to work with them. Get them a jersey. One jersey. If they're lucky, they might get two. And whole day they're wearing that. Up and down the place wearing that jersey. And waving flag. When they see PNM passing by, waving flag. But look at who they're using. We saw it in 2020. The pictures have resurfaced on social media. The persons of African descent eating grass. When they're running the ads, persons of African descent in the car park, in the grocery begging. And it's the persons of East Indian descent coming out pushing the full trolleys of groceries and hand them a bag of bananas. You saw the ads, the doubles vendor, right? And it's the person of African descent by the doubles vendor waiting on the side and asking everybody, the boss, you could buy a double some. The boss, you could buy something for me to drink. Yeah, the boss. And who is the person who helping them out? The East Indian person. And they shamelessly put out these ads. But you have a bunch of Negroes for sale who, in spite of all of that, they come this year again and offering themselves for sale. All of these influencers, not influencers, influencers. Yellow fever. Offering up yourself. You spend years building your craft, building your platform, whatever was your medium of choice. So you're into comedy, okay, you build that. You're doing your little skits and so on. People like it there. You make them laugh. So they follow your page because they like your content. And you're making your little dust off of that. And then these people have come now to offer you to try and see if you could use your platform to influence your supporters and your followers to vote for them. And they give you a little kakada. A little kakada they give you. And you run with that. And then what? After the election, what's going to happen? You expect to go back to the way things were before? You will go back to creating the content that people followed you for, that you abandoned for the last few weeks? That every time people go on your page, it's only yellow is the code, yellow is the code, yellow is the code, yellow is the code, and vote for UNC and the PNM do this and the PNM do that. So after the election results are passed, what's going to happen? You're going to go back to your comedy and you expect the PNM supporters who you offended to continue to support you. But when you're selling your clothes, your Oshems, Martin, you expect people to come and what? Support you and buy your merchandise when they know what your position is. And the same people here was cussing all the time and nothing and calling dunce and all that. You think they're going to come and support you now? And these people would have abandoned you? Or are they going to bring you into the fold? You're too stupid. Have another one I saw this morning. I said, nah, boy. She disappointed me. I wouldn't call her name. But I realized, you know, there's some of them who know what they're doing is wrong. So when I went on her TikTok profile, she have one or two things promoting the UNC, but you can tell she's uncomfortable. And when you look at the majority of her videos and the amount of views and the amount of likes, all of her UNC promoting videos has the least amount of likes and she's ever had, or the least amount of views. Some of them, 0 engagement, 0 likes, 0 shares. But you are willing to damage your brand for the sake of what? But that is why I applaud people like Certified Samson. He not getting involved in the politics. He continuing to do his thing, make his content. He's getting his support. He's getting his love. He's getting his likes. He's getting his shares. And he knows that after the election, he had nothing to worry about because he has his business to protect. So his ice cream parlors will continue to generate business because he not getting into the politics. Just like Kyle Boss. Same thing. Creating his content, he have his business, his 5 a.m. coffee shop. He is not willing to damage his brand for 30 pieces of not even silver, 30 pieces of copper. That's what it is. He's not going to damage his brand. So he continued to make his content. He's not interested in that. I was interested is that these guys have far more followers than all of these stragglers, right? Far more followers than all of these hungry mouths on them. who were willing to sell what little integrity they had. When you look at people like Junior Lee, again, them not in that. They're not willing to damage their brand to support that corruption and wrongdoing. So they hold their corner, they continue to do their thing, and after the elections on Monday, they will continue to be enjoying engagement with their followers, and their following will continue to grow, and they don't have to worry. They understand that the side business will continue to flourish. But these few hungry mouth like Matara French and Swizzle Stickman and NCW and all of them who doing it, and the Cuban boy should deport him backside. Deport him for his folly. Then again, it is what it is, right? But anyway, let me get this here. There was another thing I wanted to play. We shared it yesterday. Finally, and I want to commend the Minister of Finance for speaking out on this issue of this $2.6 billion. Basically, I think he's the first government official really who has spoken to that in any detail in a while. And I think that is one of the issues that was left to linger and to fester that more should have been done to dispel that. In fact, when the PNM would have launched their manifesto, I think last week, what the Newsday reporter asked about that again, right? And as a reporter, you're supposed to know about these things. But anyway, let me get this here. Let me get this. So this is one that deserves. So there's so many things to play for you guys, eh?
Like to be seen as political for a few weeks now, since after that whole drawing last little fiasco. Because at this point, I just don't care, right? I just don't care. Do what they want, think what they want, cool. I realize people don't care about the truth. They care about hearing things that reaffirm what they already believe. If you remember, somebody made a video saying or asking, why don't Rambles talk about him worth only $2.6 billion missing? I ignored the video. But almost a month later, people still tagging me in the video. And you realize I took off my tags on this page. Because, okay, don't tag me no video, don't make no video for me, okay, say what they want. But now there's so much to talk about it. Well, okay, cool. You guys in your wish now? Let's talk about the missing $2.6 billion that really isn't missing. Before we get into that, I want you all to take a look at this chart. Pause, read it. It's going to be very important to figure out where in this chart you fall later on. Most people who follow this story only read this headline here. But take my hand as you walk down fact lane and realize why just reading a headline is wrong. This, as you all know, was the former Minister of Finance.
Of Finance. Adjacent to that, you have the Auditor General's office, which is headed by this young lady here. She is the Auditor General of Trinidad and Tobago. Follow me so far. Her role and function is after the government spend all the money, her office steps in and goes over the books, so to speak, to make sure nobody thief a couple of million to buy a car or to buy a yacht or something. That is the role and function. To go over the figures to make sure the figures adds up. So let's go back to 2024 for a moment. According to the story, in 2024, the deadline to submit the Auditor General's report was January 31st. But in February, the Ministry of Finance realized a $2.6 billion discrepancy. Now remember, the deadline was January 31st. Remember that. We are now in February, and they realize, wait now, hold up, something wrong. So they pull the fire alarm, stop the process. At this point, the Ministry of Finance realized their own error. The Auditor General didn't highlight this error. She didn't even know what took place yet. Maybe they didn't get to that part in the document or something yet. But at this point, the Ministry of Finance, somebody who works there, realized, wait, now what's going on here? And they took it to the Finance Minister. After an investigation was launched, they realized what the problem was. Rather than 26 million in refunds, it went up to 2.6 billion in refunds. Something that was incorrect. Something that was also easily traceable. Numbers leave a paper trail. Where that extra money came from, we can't account for it. Trace it back to the source, define the source, an accounting error, something that happens around the world in every government. And no doubt, something that has happened many times before, but never to this extent. Easy solution, right? Just update the documents, send it to the Auditor General, like, hey, you made a mistake, the figures you had, they're wrong, this is your updated figures. And that is exactly what the Ministry of Finance did. The Ministry of Finance now sent the updated documents to the Auditor General, who then promptly refused it because the deadline gone. Remember, the deadline was supposed to be January 31st. It was well after that now, and she was like, yeah, we're not accepting that. The deadline gone. Colin Membert then got the Attorney General, who was Regional Lamar at the time involved, who said, look, we go sue you. If you don't take these updated figures, which are the correct figures, we go sue you. And they sent over a pre-action protocol letter. Eventually, the Auditor General was like, okay, fine. But it was taking place. We are dealing with two petty people. At this point, that $2.6 billion issue did not have to trace back to the figures to see where the money went, and eventually an accounting error. So at this point, it's just egos involved. Colin Membert decides to form a committee to investigate that, and the Auditor General. He in turn was like, bro, we are an independent body. What are you asking investigating us for? You know something? You investigating me, I will investigate if this investigation is lawful. So while you suing me or you investigating me, I will have a judicial review into your actions. And that is what went all the way to the Privy Council. Not that $2.6 billion issue. This here is what went all the way to the Privy Council. And the law lords up at the Privy Council realizing the pettiness of Imbert and wondering to themselves, wait, if two parties are involved here, they are loggerheads. How are we only investigating one side? Why is only the actions? They say here, they didn't say the 2.6 billion. They say, why isn't the actions of Imbert also being investigated? But with elections around the corner at that point in time, here came the opposition leader, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, to speak on the issue. She just dropped it there, rested there with no context, nothing, no detail, nothing. And I have people all over social media thinking to themselves that you can just walk into the treasury of Trinidad and Tobago and just take 2.6 billion and walk out. Or you can just go behind a computer and tap, and transfer 2.6 billion and walk out. And this is why I stayed away from this topic. I stayed away from it for this exact reason, because saying the facts just get you hated. People don't want to hear that. What people fail to realize, at the Treasury and at Central Bank, don't just have public servants who voted for the PNM working there. There are also many public servants who voted for the UNC working there as well. And if anybody TIFA 2.6 billion, trust me, there will be whistleblowers lined up to come and blow the whistle. Our yearly budget is about 50 billion or something, so 49 billion, somewhere around there. Do you know that taking 2.6 billion from our budget would raise alarm bells across the country? And the thing about it is, right, even though public servants can have their political affiliation, most public servants who are in the know won't come out and talk about it because victimization, what if I lose my work? What if the UNC take office and I talk out against them? They might come and they might fire me. So they're just silent. But behind the scenes, many people are like, that is not how this thing works. That is not what went down. You can't just, 2.6 billion can't just disappear from the country's record books just like that. That is just not how finance works. But yeah, whatever. I stopped making.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you have 309,000 people who voted for it, who have the right to vote, and who gave the support to the UNC. Believe in that nonsense. Believe in that nonsense. Ah, boy, oh boy. I see near they gave Kennedy Swartz a Kobo Sweat last night on their platform. A bunch of jokers. Look, I tell you, yes. I hope it was worth it, and whatever they paid them. I hope it was worth, your dignity, your integrity, and whatever else you sold. But you can't sell integrity. You can't buy integrity when none exists. So all these fossils that they're digging out from wherever, just now, there was something else I'm looking for here. Where is it? So all these things we was posting. Yeah, listen to this one. Listen to this one.
Part of the UNC's policy includes privatization of TNTech and WASA. Is that something you agree with?
I will agree because I am a businesswoman in enterprise.
Yeah.
So definitely I will agree.
Privatization includes higher rates.
Higher rates.
For the consumers. What's your take on that? Do you think that the UNC should find another way to get revenue?
I think they will. It's just a matter of time. Because 28 will define all that. But I think they will.
But the privatization includes that, and they're gonna do that on the 28th.
You think they will do?
Well, she said that.
Okay, well, if she said that, she knows what she's doing, because remember, as a businesswoman, this country in a really, really bad state.
Okay.
So whatever she has to do to bring it back, she has to do. You know, because people are really suffering. And even though in our suffering days, nothing is being done, even though the PNM is in power right now, So we have to give her a chance, and if she raise one or two or three things to get us back in our feet, nothing is wrong.
So if she raise one or two or three things, they're on the platform every night. Oh, you put PNM in, Kamala have an ad running. If you put the PNM in office, that prepare yourself for increased water rates and prepare yourself for increased electricity rates and all of that. But one of her supporters, she's a businesswoman from Central. You hear what she's saying? That's okay. If she have to raise one or two or three things to bring back the economy, well then okay, she supports that. So if Kamala increase electricity rates, she don't mind. She paying the increased rates. If Kamala increase water rates, she don't mind. She paying that. Whatever rates she increase, she don't mind. She paying that. The PNM do it. All they want to do is they only want to kill poor people. They only want to raise this and raise that and increase the cost of living. So if Kamala who telling you she's going to decrease the cost of living, right? But she is prepared to have her cost of living go up if Kamala do it. And these are the people who go in and vote on Monday. Costing the PNM, you know, all the time, and the PNM telling you, we need to do this, we need to do that. You only want to dig out poor people eye. But you heard her? She's a businesswoman, Central. And she understands. She understands economics. Okay. That is what they call UNC hypocrisy. I don't take them seriously, you know. Don't take them seriously at all. But the supporters always have the worst to say about PNM. And PNM supporters drinking Balize juice, and PNM supporters dotish, and PNM supporters, if Rowley tell them the sky blue, the sky pink, and the sky is blue, they will say pink. But that just goes to show you. Ah, boy, I tell you. Yes, anyway. Mr. Yates, good morning. Yes, sir. Morning.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Yates, go ahead.
Are you hearing me, sir?
Loud and clear.
Yes. I have two questions, just two questions, for two individuals this morning. One, to Roger Alexander. When you were a senior police officer 14 years ago, 2011, how did you feel when the administration, which you now support, and the leader whom you now idolize, led a cabinet which took the decision to not extradite Galbaran Singh and Ferguson to Florida to face trial for teaching from the people of this country? When they took that decision in 2011, how did you feel as a senior police officer at that time? Like 14 years ago, you may have been an inspector, but a senior police officer. How did you feel at that time, Roger Alexander? How did you feel? Did it have anything to do with betrayal of the hard work that your investigative team in the police service had been working on for years, and they were finally coming close to getting justice for the people of Trinidad and Tobago? How you felt at that time? And how do you reconcile your feeling at that time? I assume that you were very turned off and very upset at that time with the Setter's cabinet had decided to do, where Galbaran Singh and Ferguson are concerned. I presume that you were very upset then. How do you reconcile that feeling you had then with the feeling you have now? That you have now embraced the very people who betrayed the police service of which you were a member, and a senior member 14 years ago. How you put your feelings then with what you are doing now? Just tell us. Is it that you, at that time, you were comfortable with the Setter and a cabinet not extraditing Galbaran Singh and Ferguson? Or were you put out by that? I think you owe this country an answer, if nothing else. And my second question, my concern has to do with this Swara Singh man. Okay, so you left the priesthood and you joined PNM and you went up to the seat. And with the split vote, which came because of COP's defection from the UNC, you won. You won in 2007. And you have been saying on the platform these days, you entered politics and then you retired from politics. So I was saying, let me tell you something. You must come straight with people and you mustn't lie. You didn't retire from politics. You were beaten. In that election. Don't talk about you retire from politics. You went and you won on a PNM ticket in a split vote situation. And then in the next election, you come back and you lose. And then I have to ask you, I have read recently that you had moved to Barbados and you enjoyed a position in a good job there in some hotel or something like that, if my recollection is correct. That you had a good job. What circumstances may have led you to leave this good job, where I understand from what you have said, that you were also doing work for the Barbados government? You were also doing work for the Barbados government. So you had two good jobs. What could have led you to leave that position, that fairly comfortable situation in Barbados, to come here on a whim? On a whim, to campaign on a possibility? Just on a possibility? You're not sure that UNC is going to win, but what could have led you to leave this supposedly lucrative situation in Barbados to come here to fight in a hit or miss situation? A hit or miss situation? You're not going up as a candidate. So, Mr. Swarazin, tell us, and be honest with us, as a former priest, what have you been offered? What have you been offered? Because I hate to think that you were driven by pure racist consideration, being a Douglas. I'm just considering, it's just things that pass into my head. But I'm wondering, why would you leave a lucrative financial situation in Barbados and come here to take a chance, as my father used to say, to patch a stone? What could have led you to this situation? I think we need some answers from you and Roger Alexander. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. See here.
I don't know who's going.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, and good morning to the people who are listening on the platform. This morning, it's a unsettled feeling that's pervading the atmosphere. These people desperate beyond. And this morning, as we were praying in our prayer group, right, we were praying that the people whose minds and whose hearts and whose bodies are being used as instruments, right? As some people say, polygons instruments, right? And I was having some conversation with some youth in our area, and they are making $1 by going from one party to the next, because they're offering either money, jersey, rum, all kind of things. And literally that, because I thought this thing was just a joke. I thought it was a big joke that people just put it out there. But this is serious thing. That have some of these youngsters, and when I ask them, okay, so really actually when you go in the box, who are you going and vote for? Some of them were like, I ain't voting.
Yes.
But just the fact that the capitalizing on the free stuff that's being offered. But the thing is, right? And as I try to my best to explain to them, I said the perception that is out there, all they're helping to put that perception out there that we as Negro people are fully done, that we are ridiculous, that we are dependent, that we have no sense, and that we have no ambition. And I say, you think about it. I said, this is how they see us, right? I showed them a few pictures. I showed them a few, some of the memes. I say, let get think in your head. I say, I know, okay, the 100 or the butler punching or whatever attractive. But at the end of the day, when that butler punching done, what are you faced with? Are these people coming in your house after April 28th? Are they going to give you whatever? I say it is better you walk on one of the sites where it is, you can actually see the programs that are being offered. So do something for yourself rather than just going from pillar to post and making yourself a fool out here, right? So, right now, you're just feeling the tension in the air. And as I said, this morning, one of the ladies was saying that they liken it to, when you're playing cricket, the underdog side does want to do the most and will do the worst, whereas the other people who might be a little more comfortable, they will do, but they won't do so much. But the ones who are the underdog, they do the most. And right now, they're trying to exploit the poor, desperate, and unfortunately for the young person. So it's just a call for people to realize it's not only you this is reflecting on. This is reflected on us as a nation. And after April 28th, we still have to come out here and go out and work. We still have to interact with each other. Use my neighbor still. Use my friend still. And let us not lose sight of that. All right? So that's my contribution this morning. Have a blessed day, sir.
Thank you. You too. Yeah, I could tell you after this election, my friend list will be a little shorter because I'm seeing some of my friends posting things on social media. At the end, everybody had a right to post what they want and believe what they want to believe, right? But if I am engaging you in private and I'm seeing, because I don't want to put you up on Facebook, right? I don't want to call you out on Facebook. So I'm engaging you in private and I say, well, I see your post so and so, but that is not the truth. The truth, this is this. And I send you the facts. I send you the facts. I send you the newspaper articles and the whatever else, showing what you're posting and what you are putting up is incorrect. But you're still coming back on social media and posting the rubbish. You and I can't be friends. You're showing me that you're unprincipled. You have no integrity. Even in the face of evidence that what you're posting up is lies, misinformation, and propaganda, you're still coming back and doubling down on your nonsense? Nah, you're not serious. You're not serious. We can't have a conversation. It don't make no sense for us to be friends. So, let me get this one here. Is it here, boy? So, we would have spoken a couple of days ago about a post that was put up by Philip Edward Alexander, in which he sought to pour scorn on the airline agreement that was signed between Trinidad and Tobago and Nigeria. In this post, he spoke about nobody wants to go to Nigeria, and even Nigerians don't want to go to Nigeria. And it is by and large contemptuous, not only of Nigeria, but also the African continent. Because when we look at all of the things that Nigeria offers, and I'll play something for you just now. This man, but he decided to double down on his foolishness, right? So he removed the post because I saw some people putting up screenshots of comments or posts that persons would have put up indicating that they were planning to support Kamala and the UNC. But after that, they saw that post from Philip Alexander. They will not be voting for Kamala and the UNC. And in fact, the whole household will be supporting the PNM. And because they were saying they were willing to give Kamala a chance, but so on and so on and the like. All right. So let me see here. So just now, let me get this here.
When I put up that post that nobody wants to go to Nigeria, it had nothing to do with race. It had to do with the fact that Nigeria is the corruption, scam, and murder capital of the African continent. There have a lot of beautiful countries on that continent that we could have done a hub with. I have been putting that information out in the public space forever. But I see the PNM trolls looking for mischief because Philip Alexander about big and he damaging them in the PNMs. So I pull my post. You can't find race in that. But because it's Nigeria, they could say that somehow I have a problem with Africa. Philip Edward Alexander has put more information about the origins of history coming out of Africa than anybody in the public space. And I could say that without fair contradiction. But me, I having no argument, and I ain't giving them PNM trolls no gas. Find another fool to ride. Me, I put up my post to say that the PNM government, that deal is going to be rife with corruption. And it is probably going to be used to move money out of Trinidad and Tobago for them who thief money. You see the talk, the race talk, I pull my own post. Okay.
Well, as you said, find another fool to ride. Well, at least he admits he's a fool. But he said, find another one. Don't come to ride this fool. Look for another fool to ride. So the only thing he said inside there that made sense was his acknowledgement of the fact that he's a damn fool. But here I talk about Nigeria and rife with corruption and so on. I wonder if the Nigerian ambassador were to hear that, how would he feel? Hearing somebody who is hoping to be a minister of government in the not too distant future, in the space of about a week or so, stating such things about his country. I wonder how the staff of the Nigerian embassy in Marval feel about that. Hearing a man who's hoping to be a minister of government in the not too distant future saying this about their country. I wonder how they felt about that. But he decides to double down rather than correct himself. He decided to double down on his folly, right? And he wants to be a minister of government. Where is the diplomacy? So should they win on Monday and the Nigerian ambassador decides he's going to have an event to celebrate, I don't know, Nigerian independence or something like that, and he invites members of cabinet to attend, is it that Mr. Alexander is not going to show up on account of his view that Nigeria is a corrupt country? Or is he going to show up and show himself to be a blasted hypocrite? Which one? I'm just asking that question. Because he said in that video, you heard him say, you know, there are so many beautiful countries on the African continent. So many beautiful countries on the African continent that people would want to go to. But in your post, you didn't mention any of those beautiful countries of the African continent, Mr. Alexander. You say people want to go to Canada and the US and England. Why you didn't, instead of posting those three countries, why didn't you list the names of three of these other beautiful countries on the African continent? You couldn't think of any at the time. You feel everybody is the waterfront ilk. Everything good, everything good. Feel everybody's stupid. Not everybody is UNC supporters, eh? The fully dunce, right? The fully dunce who night after night attending those meetings. You could sell them that BS. Not on this side. Who come to tell me, but you have so many beautiful countries on the African continent and you couldn't name one? You couldn't put that in your post? No. Canada, USA, England. What they all have in common? Well, first of all, none of them on the African continent. Yeah. But you're calling it, it's so corrupt. Nigeria is so corrupt. And all of that. Where you get that from? And then have the audacity to say that he put out more things about Africa than anybody else. Reminds me of Donald Trump. Nobody knows more about anything than I do. Everything that comes up, nobody knows more about this than I do. Nobody knows more about that than I do. Nobody has done more for this than I do. Nobody has done more for the African community and the African American community than he has. Always. And now he coming to tell you, nobody has put out more stuff promoting the African continent than he has. Maybe he could tell us where we could find that content. Because you've done so much research on the African continent, and not one of those countries came to your mind when you put out your post to say, well, people want to go to whichever one. You didn't see it fit in this video to mention 2 or 3 or a few of these beautiful countries on the African continent to at least try and redeem yourself. You just say there's so many beautiful, but you can't think of none. You could sell that BS to them. Miss us with that. Miss us with that. Go from here with that. People, let me tell you something. Make sure come Monday, You see all those millions that the UNC spending, make sure that money go to waste for me, please. Make sure every penny, every dime of those millions goes to waste come Monday. Make sure that you put a dent into the bank accounts of every financier who pelting out millions of dollars for their campaign and spending tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands every day to try and promote their nonsense. Make sure that money goes to waste for me, please. Let them regret spending those millions. And once it is that you do that, rest assured that any election come after, they are making that mistake again. Put a dent. They must not be given any opportunity to recoup that money after the 28th of April. None. If they were so silly and foolish to spend all those millions, fine. You contributed to the economy. Hopefully, the money would have been spent in such a way that those who got it, the businesses that got it, that they will be paying the taxes, so at least we could get some tax from that. Some income tax, corporate tax from that money, and that they didn't do it underhand, in cash, so that there is no record of that expenditure, no paper trail then, so that these people get to keep every single penny and dime, and they're even in opposition, they're robbing the treasury. Make sure all that money goes to waste, please. Pick up the phone and call your friend and family, all who talking nonsense, but they ain't voting and they ain't sure and they ain't know. This is not the time for that. This is not the time for that. Right? You could do that in 2027 when local government election, you could do that. You see, come Monday here, we have no time for that. So unless you ain't sure and you ain't know and you're thinking about it, you should have made up your mind long time. Right? Made up your mind long time. As I keep telling people, you can't come and tell me, oh, me I'm voting and thing, and then after the election, when the MP in place, you need your drain fix, you're coming by the same MP who you didn't vote for. Then where you're coming for? If you don't believe in the electoral process, how the MP got there? It's through the voting process, it's through those persons who decided to get off the bed and go and cast the ballot, dip the finger in the ink. But you make sure, you see me, I know into this politics thing now, I know about that and politics and this and that, and I don't participate in that. But then when the MP passing around on your street, you're coming outside. Yeah, I need my drain fixed. You see the that street light there, it's not working. And I have an 18-year-old and he's looking for a job. And oh, now you recognize the benefit of an MP. But when you had the opportunity to contribute to that person getting into office to assist you with all these things that you now want help with, you weren't interested. You're not into the politics. Well, they're not serious. Brian.
Morning, Dominic.
Morning, sir.
Morning to your listeners and callers. Dominic, today is just the birthday. Just to remind people of certain things. First of all, since you came on, Dominic, down here in Pointe-a-Pierre, rain has been falling.
Yes.
It has not stopped. I want to remind the people what happened in 2015 when the EBC extended the voting process by an hour and the trials and tribulations thereafter by the UNC. The EBC is under the gun right now with the lies and this dossier that they produced, that they went to the same people that they say they care about, they didn't want here. That is the Caribbean, the CARICOM observers. They pick up their dossier about the EBC and they went by the same CARICOM observers. And they had discussion with them. The same people that say, according to Rudal Munila, that we don't want them here. You understand? We want the Jimmy Carter people. And we want the Europeans and so on. They didn't want the Caribbean people here. But the first people that went to with the dossier on the EBC and the attack on Francisco. Yes? They ask you whether or not if she's a member of the PNM and how long she's a member of the PNM and like that business. The EBC will member 2015 and they will not extend the voting by another hour to prevent that controversy that took place 10 years ago. So all of you all want to look for, buy an umbrella and get your boots and whatever you need, you have to make arrangements for your transportation. Don't wait until Monday morning to realize rain falling, bucket a drop, and I can't go and vote because me I have no transport and nobody pass for me and I calling them and nobody answering. Make your arrangements from today. Go get your boots if you have to walk. Go get your umbrella if you have to buy one. Or arrange your transportation if you need to. Don't look for no excuse not to vote because you're afraid rain like cat. Make your arrangements from today and make it for early in the morning. Rather rain falling for 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours. When you get inside the voting booth, raining will be falling on top of your head. So make your arrangements to get to where you have to go and vote. Whether it's pouring, bucket and drop, whether it's storm, whether it's whatever, make your arrangement, get your raincoat, and make your way down to the voting office, wherever it is you have to go, the voting station, and go and vote. Make your arrangement. Today's Thursday. You have enough time, you have ample time, because rain's falling. Don't wait for excuse not to vote. Because you know what? The sun will shine on the 29th. And whatever say them, that'll be an excuse. So don't look for no excuse. Look for a reason to go and get what you need to get. Your raincoat, your umbrella, your boots, or whatever it is you have to wear, and get down by the polling station and do what you need to do. Because I can tell you, UNC people coming out in droves to go and vote, and they're not going to let rain stop them. Don't let rain be an excuse not to vote. I want to remind you people something about Guyana. Guyana have oil coming through all orifices, all through the ears, the nose, the mouth. But guess what? The exchange rate, people, this up to this morning, is still 208 to $1 US. How come it's a revalue? What is my point? If the UNC should win, and our dollar is devalued of either 12 or 15 to 1, don't tell yourself in 2030 when you go and vote back in the PNM, they go revalue. It will stay at 15 to 1. So your troubles will begin on the 29th, and it will not stop, regardless of who in office. If you don't vote for the People's National Movement, Kamala Prasad does not care. Kamala Prasad says he's on a vengeful mode. She's not business. All what she's talking today will mean nothing to her come the 29th of April. We have seen it all before. Only remember 1986, those who are old enough to remember, and those who are not, go back and check it out. Ask the people, the senior people in society. Ask them what happened in 1986. When all the promises were made by the NAR and they swept the PNM. Everybody was laughing, having a good time. Boy, we will get money. And when they realized they were losing their houses, when they lost their cola, when they lost their jobs. And within 2 years, Club 88 was formed. Within 2 years. Because all of a sudden, all of the love and all of the caring and the shaking of hands and the hugging up, done. And after that was formed the UNC. Because they're telling you one thing today, and when come next week, when time to share all the profits and the money, it will go in one direction, and one direction alone. That is why folks and them spending millions of dollars, so you won't have to pay the $1 billion here for us. They invested in their own personal well-being. Look at it, people. It's not for us. It's not for us. It's for themselves. Do you realize Kamala Prasad says stop talking about what she's going to do with the state enterprises? Do you realize she has stopped talking about gas industry. For the last week and so, she has not said a word about those things. You know, she plans to raise money, to raise revenue, because she has been forced to say something. She's going to invest in weed. The weed industry is over $100 billion. You know that? Medicinal weed. Who's going to plant all that weed, and where they're going to plant it? And where they're going to process it? And what she will do with the procurement industry, she will raise revenue there. How is she raising revenue from the procurement industry? How is she raising revenue there? Kamla Prasad-Bissessar is lying to you. So she decided the only way she could fool people is to tell them with weed, because sell weed for medicinal value and it will raise money. It's $100 billion industry. When is she doing that? Who's going to plant the weed? Who's going to process it? People, don't be fooled. They're fooling you. They are fooling you. They want to put guns in the hands of people, firearms. Ms. McNichols was on television yesterday morning. She said that is a no-no. Because when the bandits come and they feel you have a firearm, they will kill you and then rob you, because they're not going to take the chance. Because they will tell themselves, they will assume every household now has firearms. So they're not going to come with no cutlass anymore. They're coming to shoot to kill first. And then they're going to look to rob your place of business or your homes. It's not going to stop. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar don't want it to stop. She has no plan that is going to work in the benefit of our children. She's going to close up all that the Ministry of Youth and National Service has done. Everything is going to stop because she's not going to invest any money in our youth. And this money she could use for their own pocket. Because the UNC is coming here to thief, to continue the realm of thieving and corruption and fixing them friends and themselves and ensuring that certain people become judges. So no matter whatsoever will ever see the light of day in our court. You can see it even today. All these court, prison gate, what's happened with that? Audio gate, what's happening with that? Rural Munilal's case that was supposed to be answered since November 6th last year. Not a word. Not even anything in the papers. Absolutely nothing. We have to be mindful of some of these things that are happening around us that is going to get worse under the UNC. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar has not walked anywhere. She was proud to say last night that she was on a truck passing around Separia with Leroy Batiste. She's not coming down on the ground to walk to meet the constituents because she can't walk. If she can't walk in her own constituency, how is she going to go and work to get back the OFAC license for us in Washington? She's going to walk up those 50 steps of the Capitol to speak to who? Who is she going to speak to? Even if you can't walk 2 steps, you're going to walk 50 steps. If you can't walk in your own constituency to meet your candidate door to door, it's like Queen Elizabeth waving. When they put a glove on your hand, you think she cares about walking anywhere? She has missed many of their meetings that have been run by Shirley John and Rural Munilal because she can't make. If she can't make to go to the community meetings, you think she going 5 or 6 days a week into Whitehall to work on our behalf? You think the $500,000 in rum that they found in the diplomatic center will not resume? You think the $500 million in cut notes wouldn't resurrect his head? These are the things we have to understand and study. Because it's not about us, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It is about them. And we have one choice. Nothing must stop us. Nothing must prevent us from voting on Monday. Absolutely, rain or shine, doesn't matter. I've already made preparations. I would finish work by 6:15, rain or shine. Once God gives me health and strength to get up and go ahead, go across to my polling station. That is what I will be doing. So you all get up out your bed, say your prayers, scrub your mouth, scrub your teeth, drink your cup of tea, drink your cup of coffee with so desire. But one thing I want you all to do, regardless of what they say over the next few days, because it's going to still get worse, you know. It is still going to get worse. The propaganda not going to stop. Forget all that stupidity that they're telling you all. Stuart Young has demonstrated his plans. Terence Yalting has indicated what is happening with all those people who are on dialysis, on radiation, and what is the cost. How much it costs for you to end up in the hospital? How much that costs, and all of these other things. That if the IMF gets in, what's going to happen? And if they reduce, if they go back, and if they go to 15-1, gas prices going up. The gas you put it in your car will go up. The diesel you put it in your 4x4 will go up. Prices of vehicles will go up. The prices you pay for your child to study abroad and in universities around the Caribbean, plus dormitory prices will go up. And you will have to pay or tell your child, I'm sorry, I can't continue with supporting you. You better come home because it is now out of our reach. Don't waste time because only certain people will be getting scholarships in this country. I don't have to tell you who, you know. If these people should get into office, because already they are preventing certain children from getting into UE. Imagine UE lecturer on TV talking about UNC is the best choice. What does that tell you? They don't care what you think. I think they're going to care if they win on the 28th. They won't. They will shove it in your face and double down and triple down on it. Don't let that happen. You know what you're supposed to do. Get up Monday morning and do your duty, do your civic duty, and ensure victory comes to the People's National Movement. So we can go ahead with our new chapter with Stuart Richard Young, SC. Dominic, thank you very much. Good luck to you on Monday. I know you have the support of the people of Mosika, Malabar, and I know you will be in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, doing what you do best. All the best to you, sir. Have a good day. And
Thank
all
you.
the other PNM people who will be going up, candidates, sorry, who will be going up for the election.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, Dominic.
Hey, no problem. Jenny, final call.
Morning, Dominic.
Hey, Jen, morning.
Point almost on nocturnal and related success, seven things, and I'll make it very quickly. The elections is Monday, the 28th of April, 2025. We have two major parties. They like to call it by colors, the red, the yellow. On the yellow side, they have to pay people to come to full meetings, to full maxis. They have to give you money to come because nobody can just go in there just so. On the red side, you don't have to pay nobody to come. People just want to come to here to be a part of the energy, to be a part of the love, the togetherness, and to listen to the future of this country, this new chapter. And I'm asking people to sit down and think about this critically. Don't let nobody think for you. Why would you have to pay people to come to a meeting to full maxis to make your call to pay? Why would you have to do that? And it simply means because you don't have anything. Because if you don't pay them, nobody's not coming. Because nobody wants to hear. Because you have nothing to tell them. And the Red Party, the People's National Movement, is because people want to hear. They want to hear future. They want to hear the plans that they have. They feel that there's something here. We can follow this leader. We can follow Prime Minister Stuart Young. He's young, not only being young alone, but he has what it takes to run this country. He has the experience, he has the ability. He can negotiate on behalf of this country for us to get the best deal, because we are the stakeholders. And I want you to ask yourself after that, why would I want to vote for a party, this UNC, this yellow party, where they have to pay for everything, they have to lie for everything, they have to manufacture lies, they can't talk the truth. All of them who here say the worst of what come up with our disaster. She said she's going to privatize the government companies, state-owned companies, IT and tech, so she said so. She said it is there. They want to walk it back now. You have the union, all other unions pulling themselves away. They say they're no part of a political party. But look at the unions who remain. The PSA, OWTU, SWWTU. They remain, and their leaders is the one who say the nastiest things that will come up with service effects. They say she corrupt. But they're still there. So people can watch that and think to themselves and say, no, the UNC could never be a choice. Because they look at the PNM, I have never heard a union leader say that the PNM minister's thief. If that's a talk about thiefing, they're going right back how much years to Halloran and Privat. They don't have anything research, nothing at all. The more they could say, oh, they are we suffering. But you know what? These people's salary they're getting from the unions is all $90,000 on what kind of thing we hear. The same people who are always suffering, they're right here, they're not leaving. There was a carnival this year, they full the place, all the set. Groceries sell out, the cars and them selling out, and they still say we suffering. They're using that word to build the psyche, but we suffering. Who is we suffering? Are there some people in this country who are having challenges? Of course. All over the world, in America, have it too. All over the world. But when they keep saying we suffer and we suffer, we're not seeing that. So they want to create an alternative reality for us, and that is cognitive dissonance. And you can't buy into that. Because I want people to answer me, who is listening here? Are you suffering? Or is it that sometimes things are a little hard? And then it's a little hard with everybody, but are you suffering? They say we're hungry, but the hospital has not recorded any cases of malnutrition. And if we're suffering and we're hungry, the first and vulnerable group that will feel it will be the children and the elderly. There has not been a surge in the hospital with children coming there with malnutrition or elderly coming there with malnutrition. So we think about it, suffering. What we're suffering from? If we're suffering from something, there has to be a symptom, and that symptom will generate somewhere and has to go. We haven't had that. So we're suffering and talking about, I see an Indian woman talking, she's a businesswoman. She's saying, we suffering, but she's still a business. And saying if Kamala and them privatize Tiantek and all that, it will guys what they have to do to make the money, well, if she says so. But then only complaining and saying that the PNM want to privatize. So you can't have two things. It can't be okay if Kamala wants to privatize because she has to make money. And God forbid the PNM say that, or you're calling the wicked and bad. So we have to understand there's two realities the UNC want to pay for. They want it to be just like America. America has two realities, where they rejected Kamala Harris and they voted for Trump, even when he told them what he's going to do. He told them what he's going to do. You know, they vote him and then say they didn't think he would do it. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing here. Kamala and the UNC telling all what they're going to do. Philip Alexander tell us the kind of individual he's willing to call an African woman a bitch. It means he don't care about African people. He don't care about women. He has a problem with women. He's telling what he think about Africa. When it's Nigeria, but he tells you what he thinks. And he tells you what he calls African woman. And he just tell African people they're hungry who's supporting the PNM. So they're telling you who they are. And you want to still tell me you're trying to make up your mind your defense. Then it has to be, unfortunately, that you like abuse, you like corruption, you like confusion, you like people to think for you and not think for yourself. You don't want future for your children. You're comfortable with people lying to you. It has to be that. And I'm saying that very honestly, because you can't tell me the things I paint out here. That you're going to tell me you're not going to vote, you're vexed with the PNM, and you're going to give UNC a chance. What chance you want to give them again? You give them a chance in 2010 and a big mandate and they do nothing. They're going back with the same players who fall out with them and call them all corrupt and all that. They're coming back now. to tell you. Imagine Roger, I'll leave it because these things are important. Imagine Roger is saying, they get into office, that deal with Orlando is gone enough. Imagine that. And he said they will run it. When you gain over 500 million or 700 million to start back up the refinery, that refinery has been down for a while. So it needs people to come in with money to remodernize it. Where the country going to get 700 million US dollars to start back the refinery? Then Kamala says she coming that 300 houses are going to be built on the waterfront in San Fernando. So families to live in. Those houses will finish in 18 months' time. Kamala says she's stopping that. So it means that families who are going to get these houses will not have houses to live in. So why would somebody want to run this country suffer the same people who is suffering under PNS? What do you think about that now? Everything she says she's going to stop with the PNM put in place to help people. And then she turn around and say the PNM suffering. Because not only youth camp are training for young people. In 2010, you know much people would have been in the youth camp, would have been out here with a career and a trade. That is a check it. Those are the children who might be involved right now in crime because there's nothing to hold them. She closed down all the youth camp. The UNC have a history of closing down all the youth camps where a lot of African people, children go. So it's a 10 to know that so much years. If they was 10 years old now, they're 20 years old now. And the camp being open, you'll have gone into the camp and come out in that trade and be working out here to be able to get the loans for entrepreneurship and all that. You deprive a whole community, a whole group and catchment of young people when they close down the youth camp. When they close down John D, they did the same thing. The hotel school, they did the same thing. And then they come in to say, is the PNM suffering people? How can PNM suffer people when them build all them institutions to help with people? And when they come and close it down, says, the UNC has suffer people. And every time UNC come out of office, crime has increased. Ask yourself why. Because if they're giving, and nobody has to do nothing for it. When you're not there, they're not getting. And they ain't trained to work now, they ain't take medication, they ain't take no trade, nothing at all. We don't want them to do. So it's really the UNC that suffer people. And that suffer African people, and that suffer the whole Indian people. Because every program it has to help the African people, the poor Indian people, the poor African people, the UNC when they come to close the door. And then turn around now, after they abuse you, give you a little scrap to make you feel that they really love you. When they put away all opportunities from you to keep you helpless and hopeless. So I'm saying to reject the UNC. You must reject the UNC. And Monday the 20th, you must show your rejection of the UNC. Because failure to do that means to say you want to continue to suffer. You want people to continue to call you the N-word and call you BITCH. You want people to continue to treat them bad. You want no people for this country. That is what it boils down to. So I am employing people because this is crunch time now. Come out and do your civic duty. People would have died for you to have the right to vote. You can't sit down and don't take part in the process and then want your voice to be heard. Young people between 18 and 40 years old, you all are the catchment here to come out and vote. You cannot say they're not listening to young people and they don't listen to what we have to say. And this Prime Minister has put things here to listen to all you. The committee to treat with art and carnival and who to sing and dance and all that. Well, you always wonder because it's not all youth in the academics. We know that. The Prime Minister understands that. Business to land for young people to get their own homes. The agricultural program and all the other programs that have to give the young people a voice and a chance. And all not coming out to vote for that. But then don't tell nobody that young people's voices not being heard. And that's only old people because all you don't want to come and take up all your mantle and take up all the place in the society. And the only political party and government offering that to young people for the voice to be heard, especially now in this new chapter, is the People's National Movement under George Richard Young. So I'm employing people. You have two choices. The yellow party saying we're into a code, and the red party that telling you this is the future, we have a new chapter to write, come and be on board with us. And the only choice is to go to the People's National Movement and the 41 constituency, everybody come out in the numbers vote for the PNM candidate. Dominic, have a blessed day, everybody, and we will talk.
Thank you, Jen. So I have to leave it there, folks, because I have a 9:30 appointment. Right, so yeah. Tomorrow is Friday. Let me see what my campaign team has in place for me for tomorrow morning, and I might have to jump on again tomorrow. Of course, Saturday is the big rally at the Hart Grounds, the final rally before the big day, Monday. So if you're able to come out in your numbers. Okay, you know, of course, these rallies are like the battle of the numbers, eh? Because the UNC will be sending the minions. They want to say, hey, look at this small crowd, piano. Really? Piano people is turn out. And at the end of the day, crowds don't win election, votes do. So all those little hungry mouth that they paying money to, a little dust to come out in the numbers in a jersey. But as you heard previous caller say, a lot of these boys, me have voted, half of them don't even have ID cards. But that's who the UNC have with them all over the place, up and down the place. But just note, the PNM shows up when it's necessary. In 2020, in 2019, local government election, December the 5th, was it? 2019, the PNM got 160,000 votes in the local election. UNC got close to 300,000. And then just 8 months later, on the 10th of August, the PNM got 320,000 votes, double what they would have gotten in the local election. And were able to secure victory, right? So let me just take the final one here and then, yeah. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, good morning again. I
Yes,
just
sir.
want to say one thing alone, just one thing. I'm not monopolizing anything, just one thing. And a friend of mine just reminded me of something. When Swarat Singh was a Catholic priest, didn't he used to take confession from people?
Yes.
Did he used to take confession? So when people come into the confessional and, you know, pour out all kinds of things, real or imagined, inclusive of which was, I have stolen this and I have stolen that and this and that and that. What would you have told them? Would you not have given them certain prayers to go and say, to ask for contrition and to ask for forgiveness? But you pick up your good former Catholic self, a man who used to take confession from people, and you gone and endorsing people who thief black is white in that Piaco Airport Terminal project. You gone there? You should be ashamed of yourself. And I will say something else. You should have never been any Catholic priest. So it means that if you were telling people in the confessional that thieving and corruption is wrong and is a mortal sin, by going with the UNC, what you have done is endorse thieving and corruption. You have endorsed a mortal sin as a former priest. I am saying so today, without fear of contradiction. That is what I am saying to you, Kennedy Flora, this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, folks, so the rain is down again by me as well. Let me just get this here and then head out. So I have a 9:30 appointment, so let's see. Hello, good morning. Hello? Hello? Hello, good morning.
Dominic!
Oh, Lord, Father. I know I should have wrapped up my show long time. All is well, sir.
Look at boy. Let me say good morning to my sisters in Brooklyn. Sis, good morning. Hey, Dominic.
Yes, sir.
I supported Michaela Pandey.
Good for you.
And I'm calling on the people to support Michaela Pandey.
Right.
Let me tell you why. When the PP government was in power, The former Prime Minister put a health center in Carnage, in the area Dr. Rowley represents. PNM came in power. Dr. Rowley put a school in Separia for she. Dominic, Dr. Rowley make Digomatin a borough. He makes Separia a borough. The former Prime Minister left our borders defenseless. Dr. Rowley left our borders defenseless. Dominic, why? Can anyone answer that for me? Why, Dominic? Dominic, I will leave it there for now.
Thank you so much. Have a good day. I know that our Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, went to Australia and he would have gotten us 2 Cape-class vessels, all right, for the patrol of our maritime borders. So I don't know where you get this thing from about our that the former Prime Minister, that Dr. Rowley would have left the borders unprotected. Come on, man. Stop misinforming the population now. Leave it there. All right? And the fact that Dr. Rowley would have made Separia a borough and he would have built a school there, what that does, it shows that contrary to what the UNC has been saying, that the PNM was practicing geographic discrimination and they weren't doing anything for UNC constituencies, is a damn lie. The evidence is there to show. Contrary to what they were saying, if they were practicing that, Separia wouldn't be a borough. And he would not have built a school, and I'm sure other things were done in the constituency of Kamloops. All right? So folks, we will leave it there. We will leave it there for today. I'll see if I could come on in the morning quickly and do a little thing. But it's a rainy day, so as I always say, keep safe, especially on the black carpet, drive safely, don't overdo, because we ain't getting no accidents and stuff. We need everybody on board on Monday to do your civic duty and to ensure that we keep that band of thieves, that coalition of misfits, as far away from our treasury as possible, as far away from the corridors of power as possible. As we go forward, there's only one party that can take this country forward, and that is the People's National Movement. All right? Tried, tested. All right. You know what 1986 gave? We heard Brian mentioned to us as well. Promises were made. People bought into those promises. And then who lost their homes? Who lost their 10%? Who lost their COLA? And the increments and all of these different things. And the impact that would have had on your standard of living. And you couldn't wait to vote out the NAR, but you had to wait for 5 years. All right? Don't make the same mistake again this time. So enjoy your day and we will chat again soon.